He slept in his car to afford his daughter's medicine. His boss had been watching the whole time. The parking garage was quiet at 11 p.m., save for the distant hum of the city settling into sleep. Marcus Hayes reclined his driver's seat as far as it would go, which wasn't far enough for a man of 6 feet, and pulled the old wool blanket up to his chin. The fabric smelled faintly of laundry detergent and his daughter's strawberry shampoo, a scent that made his chest ache with something between comfort and grief. He'd been doing this for 3 weeks now. Every night after his shift ended at the warehouse, Marcus would drive to this corner of the employee parking structure, tuck himself into the back seat of his 12-year-old Honda Civic, and try to sleep. In the morning, he'd use the company gym to shower, change into fresh clothes he kept in a duffel bag in his trunk, and clock in for another 10-hour shift, like nothing was wrong. Nobody asked questions, nobody noticed. That was the thing about being invisible. You learned to keep it that way. Marcus stared at the concrete ceiling above him, counting the water stains the way other people counted sheep. Somewhere across town, in a warm apartment that belonged to his sister Denise, his 7-year-old daughter Lily was sleeping in a real bed. She didn't know her father was homeless. She thought he was working night shifts. She thought everything was fine. He intended to keep it that way. The medical bills had started 8 months ago, when Lily was diagnosed with juvenile arthritis. The inflammation in her small joints was aggressive, and the only medication that helped, the one that let her run and play and be a child, cost more than Marcus made in a month. Insurance covered part of it, but part of it wasn't enough. He'd sold his furniture first, then the television, then the apartment itself, giving up the lease to save on rent. His phone buzzed softly, a text from Denise. Lily asked about you again, said she misses your bedtime stories. When are you coming home? Marcus typed back, soon, working extra shifts. Kiss her for me. He set the phone face down on his chest and closed his eyes. Home. He didn't have one anymore, but Lily had her medicine. She could move without pain, laugh without wincing, chase butterflies in the park without her knees giving out. That was enough. That had to be enough. Eleanor Chen had built her company from nothing. 30 years ago, she'd started Harbor Logistics with a single truck and a stubbornness that bordered on pathological. Now, it was a sprawling operation with 3 warehouses, 200 employees, and a reputation for treating workers like human beings instead of line items on a spreadsheet. At 63, Eleanor still walked the floors herself. She knew every forklift operator by name. She remembered birthdays, asked about grandchildren, noticed when someone's smile didn't reach their eyes. She'd noticed Marcus Hayes. He was quiet, efficient, the kind of man who volunteered for overtime and never complained. He'd been with the company for 2 years, had received 3 commendations for perfect attendance, and lately looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. Eleanor watched him from her office window one evening as he loaded pallets with mechanical precision. There were shadows under his eyes. His shoulders carried a weight that had nothing to do with the boxes. She'd seen that posture before, on herself, decades ago, when she was a single mother working 2 jobs and hiding tears in bathroom stalls. Janet, she said to her assistant, pull Marcus Hayes' file for me. The file told her numbers, hours worked, emergency contact, a daughter named Lily. But numbers didn't tell stories, so Eleanor did something she rarely did anymore. She stayed late, she watched, and one night, when Marcus's shift ended, she followed him at a distance, her sedan crawling through the parking garage. She watched him park in the far corner, away from the lights. She watched him climb into the back seat with a pillow and a blanket. She watched him pull his knees up to fit, like a child trying to sleep in a space made for luggage. Eleanor sat in her car for a long time, her hands trembling on the steering wheel. She didn't approach him that night, or the next. She needed to understand first. She called the hospital where his daughter had been treated. She called his sister's apartment, pretending to be a census worker. She pieced together a picture of a man who had given up everything, including the roof over his head, so a little girl could live without pain. On the 14th night of watching, Eleanor made a decision. Marcus was reviewing inventory when the page came over the intercom. Marcus Hayes to the main office, please. His stomach dropped. In his experience, being called to the main office meant one thing: termination. Someone had found out about the car. Someone had reported him. He'd broken some rule he didn't know existed. He walked the long hallway to Eleanor Chen's office like a man approaching the gallows. When he knocked, her voice was calm. Come in. The office was warmer than he expected. Soft lamps instead of fluorescent lights. Plants on the windowsill. A photograph of a young woman on the desk, Eleanor's daughter, he assumed. Graduation cap and gown, smile wide as the sky. Sit down, Marcus. He sat. His hands were shaking. He pressed them flat against his thighs to hide it. Eleanor was quiet for a long moment, studying him with eyes that seemed to see straight through his carefully constructed facade. Then she said something he didn't expect. "Tell me about Lily." The question hit him like a blow. His throat tightened. "Ma'am, your daughter. Tell me about her." Marcus blinked. This wasn't how firings worked. She's 7, second grade. She likes purple and horses. She wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up, but she changes her mind every week. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "Last week, it was astronaut. She's sick." It wasn't a question. Marcus's smile faded. "How did you—" "I know a lot of things, Marcus." Eleanor leaned forward, her hands folded on the desk. "I know you've been sleeping in your car for 3 weeks. I know you sold everything you owned to pay for her medication. I know you shower in the company gym and keep your whole life in a duffel bag." The blood drained from his face. "Mrs. Chen, I can explain—" "You don't need to explain anything." Her voice was gentle, firm. "I didn't bring you here to fire you. I brought you here to ask why you didn't come to me." Marcus stared at her. The question didn't compute. "I have resources, Marcus. The company has an employee assistance fund. I have connections at hospitals, with pharmacies, with housing programs. I could have helped you months ago. Why didn't you ask?" His voice came out rough, broken. "Because asking for help means admitting you failed." Eleanor was silent. Then she stood, walked around her desk, and sat in the chair beside him, not across from him, but next to him, like an equal. "I was 28 when my husband left," she said quietly. "My daughter was 3. I worked double shifts at a factory and slept in my car on the nights I couldn't afford gas to drive home. I ate once a day so she could eat 3 times. I was so proud, so determined to do it alone." She paused. "And then a woman, a stranger, noticed me crying in a grocery store parking lot. She bought me dinner. She helped me find childcare. She told me that accepting help wasn't weakness, it was wisdom." Marcus's eyes were burning. He blinked hard, trying to keep the tears from falling. "That woman's name was Margaret," Eleanor continued. "She died 10 years ago. But I built this company on the principle she taught me, that we are here to catch each other when we fall." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a key, a single brass key on a simple ring. "There's a house on Maple Street, small, 2 bedrooms. It belonged to my mother before she passed. It's been sitting empty for years because I couldn't bring myself to sell it." She pressed the key into Marcus's palm. "It's yours now, rent-free for as long as you need it." Marcus couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. "There's more," Eleanor said. "I've spoken with my contacts at Children's Hospital. There's a patient assistance program for Lily's medication, one your doctors apparently never told you about. They're processing her application now. You should hear back by Friday." A tear slid down Marcus's cheek, then another. He didn't wipe them away. "Why?" he whispered. "Why would you do all this for me?" Eleanor smiled. It was the kind of smile that had weathered decades of struggle and emerged soft, not hard. "Because 35 years ago, I was you, and someone saved me." She squeezed his hand. "Now it's my turn to pass it on." 6 months later, the little house on Maple Street glowed with warm light. Lily had hung paper butterflies from the ceiling, dozens of them in every color, fluttering gently in the breeze from the open window. The kitchen smelled like the spaghetti Marcus was learning to make from an online recipe. The living room had a second-hand couch and a coffee table Lily had helped him paint purple. It wasn't much, but it was home. "Daddy, is she here yet?" Lily bounced on her toes by the front door, her dark curls escaping from their braids, her eyes bright with the boundless energy of a child who could finally run without pain. "Almost, sweetheart. Be patient." A car pulled into the driveway. Lily squealed. Eleanor Chen emerged with a wrapped present under one arm and a bakery box in the other. She'd been coming to dinner every Sunday for 4 months now. Lily called her Grandma Ellie. She called Lily my little butterfly. It had started as gratitude. It had become something else, something Marcus hadn't had since his own mother passed, someone older, wiser, who looked at his daughter with love she didn't have to give. "Happy birthday, butterfly!" Eleanor knelt to accept Lily's hug, laughing as small arms wrapped around her neck. "I'm 8 now, Grandma Ellie. That's almost a grown-up." "Almost," Eleanor agreed solemnly. "But not quite. You still have to eat your vegetables." "Ugh." Dinner was noisy and warm. Lily told elaborate stories about her school friends. Marcus talked about his promotion to shift supervisor. Eleanor listened with the kind of attention that made everyone feel like the most important person in the room. When the cake was eaten and the presents opened, Lily fell asleep on the couch, her new stuffed horse clutched to her chest. Marcus and Eleanor sat on the porch, watching the stars emerge one by one. "Thank you," Marcus said quietly. It was something he said often, but it never felt like enough. Eleanor shook her head. "Don't thank me. Just promise me something. Anything. Someday, maybe years from now, maybe decades, you'll meet someone who's sleeping in their car, giving up everything for someone they love. When that day comes, you'll do for them what was done for you." Marcus looked at his daughter through the window, at the butterflies on the ceiling, at the life that had grown from the ashes of his despair. "I promise." Eleanor nodded, satisfied. They sat in comfortable silence, two people who had found each other across a gulf of loneliness, bound now by something stronger than blood. Years passed. Lily graduated high school, then college, then veterinary school, just like she'd always dreamed. Marcus stood in the audience with Eleanor beside him, both of them crying openly as Lily walked across the stage. Afterward, in the crowded reception hall, Lily made her way through the congratulating relatives to where her father stood by the window. She was tall now, beautiful, with her mother's eyes and her father's stubborn chin. "Remember when I was 7, she said, "when I was sick and you told me everything would be okay?" Marcus nodded. He couldn't speak. "I didn't know then what you gave up for me. I didn't know you slept in a car so I could have medicine. I didn't know you went hungry so I could eat." Her voice trembled. "But I know now, and I want you to know. Everything I am, everything I'll ever be, is because you loved me enough to give up everything." Marcus pulled his daughter into his arms and held her the way he had when she was small, when the world was dark and he was terrified, and the only thing that kept him going was the weight of her in his arms. Across the room, Eleanor watched them with tears on her cheeks. She thought of Margaret, the stranger who had once saved her. She thought of all the invisible threads of kindness that connected human beings across time and circumstance. And she smiled. In the end, it was never about the money, or the house, or even the medicine. It was about being seen, being known, being loved in your darkest moment by someone who expected nothing in return. Marcus Hayes had slept in his car to save his daughter's life, but Eleanor Chen had watched and waited and opened her door, and in the space between one act of sacrifice and another act of grace, a family was born. Not the kind made by blood or law, the kind made by choice, the kind that lasts forever.